If you're preparing for the California real estate exam, the sheer volume of licensing exemptions can feel like a list of disconnected facts. Instead of memorizing them as a static list, you can evaluate almost every exemption scenario using a specific logic framework. This starts with understanding the motivation of the Department of Real Estate. Historically, the doctrine of caveat emptor, or let the buyer beware, offered consumers little recourse. The DRE was established to change that, existing primarily to protect the public from incompetence, rather than to serve as a professional guild for agents. This leads to a two-part decision matrix for determining if a license is required. First, are you acting for yourself? If so, you are exempt. Second, are you acting for someone else, and are you receiving compensation for that act? If both conditions are met, a license is legally required. Scenarios on the exam often test the specific definition of compensation. In a real estate context, compensation includes more than just cash commissions. It is defined as any item of value, such as a gift card, a vehicle, or even credit toward monthly rent. Applying this specific definition of compensation to the two-part matrix provides the foundation for navigating the regulatory logic used throughout this section of the law. We can see this framework in action with simple property flips. If an individual buys a house, renovates it, and sells it for a profit, no license is required. Because they are acting entirely for themselves, the profit is an investment return, not compensation for a service. The rules for corporate officers follow the same pattern. An officer can sell company-owned property without a license, as long as they are receiving their regular salary. However, if they receive a special transaction-based bonus for a specific sale, the DRE views that as a commission, and a license is required. Attorneys have a similar boundary. While a lawyer can perform real estate duties as part of their legal practice and collect standard legal fees, they cannot collect a broker's commission without a real estate license. The nature of the payment determines the requirement. A power of attorney, or attorney-in-fact, allows an individual to perform specific acts, like signing a deed. This exemption is intended for isolated transactions. It does not allow an unlicensed person to engage in a continuous real estate business on behalf of others. Certain roles are exempt because they operate under the authority of the court. Bankruptcy trustees and court-appointed receivers do not need real estate licenses because their actions are mandated by the legal system, which operates independently of DRE licensing requirements. Whether it's corporate ownership or legal authority, the exemption usually remains intact until a specific real estate commission or transaction-based fee is introduced. Property management involves very specific numerical rules. In California, any residential building with 16 or more units is legally required to have a manager. This manager can perform licensed activities, like signing leases and collecting rent, without a license, but only if they physically reside on the premises. If they do not live on site, the exemption no longer applies. Lending institutions follow a similar path. Salaried employees of a bank can sell property owned by the bank, such as foreclosures, without a license, because they are acting as employees of the owner and are not paid on a per-sale commission basis. In a brokerage setting, unlicensed assistants are restricted to clerical tasks. While they can handle filing and administrative support, they are strictly prohibited from performing licensed acts, such as showing property or explaining contract terms to a client. This requirement for transparency extends to advertising. If an agent or assistant publishes a listing that does not clearly identify the broker, it is considered blind advertising. This is a violation of the law because it obscures the identity of the person responsible for the transaction. In these edge cases, the law relies on rigid definitions of residency and employment to determine exactly where unlicensed support must end and licensed activity must begin. Let's test the framework with a common scenario. You help a friend negotiate a home sale. You don't charge a commission, but after the closing, the friend gives you a car as a thank you gift. Applying the matrix, you acted for someone else and you received an item of value. Because the car constitutes compensation, this is unlicensed activity. Now, consider a manager of a 20-unit building who lives on the property. They collect rent and sign leases in exchange for a salary and a free apartment. This scenario meets the legal criteria. The complex exceeds 16 units, the manager is a resident, and the compensation is part of an established on-site employment exemption. Exam questions are designed to be challenging, but using this framework helps you filter through the narrative details. By consistently asking who is being represented and whether value is being exchanged, you can more effectively isolate the correct legal conclusion.